got a couple of small clay pots, and he's putting in some kind of very pink sauce. This is actually the first Michelin-rated restaurant that I've been to ever, and it's right here in Cuba.
So far, our best ever Cuba food journey has brought us from Villegas on the west coast.
Oh my lord, oh yeah.
All the way to Barbacoa on the east coast, trying out some of the most unique traditional food Cuba has to offer.
All these dogs are looking at you for the meat.
Yeah.
Today, our grand finale takes place in the country's capital, Havana, where we'll get to taste the Cuba of the future.
Oh, where are my sunglasses? Here we are, we're in Havana, coast on my left, buildings on my right. I'm in the back of a convertible.
Over decades, a history of economic restriction and a U.S. embargo banning trade with Cuba meant tough times here for any potential business owners.
In Cuba, it's very important to pay attention to the limits. Those limits can change the kind of food that you're making.
We'll witness how a country riddled with hardships and struggle has developed a culture of innovation, adaptation, and entrepreneurship.
Excelente.
She said, if you don't say so, she will kill you.
From a Michelin-rated chef
It's like, have you ever been interviewed in your own show?
to a giant pizza oven that's completely homemade.
Normally people buy this in other countries, but they made this from scratch.
Did you draw a blueprint?
This is the story of how Cuban people overcame the odds to bring delicious food to the masses.
Why is your arm so close to mine?
Right, I didn't notice.
For me, coming to Havana, it's like coming to a car show. Why are there so many old cars here?
It comes from the 40s and 50s. A lot of car companies came and test the car here. And 60 years ago, when the embargo started, we got stuck in a Volvo with those old cars.
About 5 times a day, I'll see somebody bent over the hood of their car,
Yeah.
wrenching on something, trying to make it work again. How are people still able to fix these things?
That's the thing. If you live in Cuba and you have any tech, you need to know how to fix it.
Ah.
Anything, a computer, a car.
Our first location, right here. Every day from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., El Cafe is offering locals and tourists a warm fusion of Cuban and international food. Behind every satisfied customer is the man who spent 6 years in London mastering his craft, not just cooking, but learning how to run a restaurant at the same time. His name is Nelson.
Nelson, huge pleasure meeting you.
Nice to meet you, man.
You lived outside of Cuba for some time. Why did you decide to come back?
Well, was problem in my life. I need to come back to Cuba to look after my dad. In that moment, Cuba was developed about the private business. Yeah, we come here and decide to open our own cafe.
The Cuba of today is a lot different than the Cuba of a couple decades ago, when government-owned and operated restaurants was the norm.
There was a lot of restrictions at the beginning, so the possibilities for owners to own their own businesses, it took a long time.
Of course, in a government-owned restaurant with no owner, with no vision, there was also no incentive for workers to perform at a high level. These days, as the government relaxes more regulations, more and more private business owners are stepping up. And when you're pouring your heart and soul into your own company, the quality shows.
Dude, do you call omelets tortillas?
Yes.
Really? Where does that come from?
Spain.
I've seen a lot of things in an omelet, never banana.
In Cuba, there is a big relationship between banana and kids. Moms used to put bananas on the omelet to give it a little bit of sweet flavor. And sometimes they even sprinkle sugar on top of it, like this.
Did you experience that too?
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to check if this is the truth. It's weird, but I don't hate it. It's something very unique. You're an entrepreneur, you had an idea and it's worked. I'm sure you've built momentum over time. But right now, what are the challenges for entrepreneurs in Cuba?
The supply.
The supply.
Sometimes you need to walk for 1-2 hours all the shop around the area to get just butter or milk.
Being a restaurant owner in any part of the world is an unenviable challenge. In Cuba, even more so.
Cierro a las 3:30.
She has an idea of the whole day. She prepares everything for the menu. And when she's running out of resources, she starts to wipe out every piece of element that she doesn't have until she runs out of everything.
Restaurants in general can have hundreds of items they need to stock regularly from distributors. Cooking oil, dish soap, meat, napkins, receipt paper. In Cuba, breakdowns in this supply chain are still common, so even something we may take for granted, like butter, may be easily found today and nowhere to be found tomorrow. Meet Lizzie. Born and raised in Cuba, but she lived in Italy for 14 years. She returned to Cuba and opened this restaurant 2.5 years ago, bringing her Italian experience and fusing it with Cuban flavors and ingredients.
What are the most challenging ingredients for you to find?
Casi todo es bastante difícil de encontrar, pero...
First of all, she has a mother spirit. So she brought that spirit to the restaurant, where she needs to think ahead. Because your kids, if they don't have anything to eat, you can be like, oh, I'm sorry. No, you need to feed them as a mom. So that's why she chose to make it simple, not just for the palate of people, but also for her to find ingredients. The case of finding ingredients is seasonal, especially like cheese, because she used a mozzarella cheese. It can be hard to find or it can just disappear. But she found a local supplier that made it. So they don't rely on the government to create that. They rely in the connections that they make with each other. That's what keeps business like this alive.
Wow.
Yo, por ejemplo, tengo...
Lizzie is serving up one of her favorite creations, PICO La Esquina. It's basically a Cuban calzone. Placed cheese, ropa vieja, a mix of beef and pork, then fried sweet plantain in the middle of their homemade pizza dough. Fold it in half, edge it up, and they put it in their homemade oven.
Where do you get a pizza oven like this?
Lo construimos.
She said that this is custom made by different locals.
In the US, if you need a commercial pizza oven, you just go online, find a distributor, and order one. In Cuba, you hire a welder, an engineer, and a plumber to work together and make this from scratch.
They imagine what do I need, and then with the materials that they have here, they shape their own.
Cuban made in Cuba. It looks like a giant calzone, but I know it's stuffed with delicious Cuban ingredients. Actually, this is what we had in Miami, the ropa vieja.
It's softer than my grandma's thigh. My grandma's thigh is very soft.
I'm gonna dig into it. Oh, look at this. We've got some dough, some cheese, some of this delicious pork. People always complain on my show that I take tiny little bites, so I'm gonna try taking a big bite.
Let's go for it. Do you feel the rumba?
I don't know what that is.
It's a Cuban dance.
Yeah. It's very delicious. It's doughy, cheesy, and then I feel the plantain has some sweetness in there too.
Yeah.
It's such a combination between savory and a little sweet. Oh, and that mozzarella is very good.
It kicks really hard.
When you were a kid growing up in Cuba, could you get mozzarella cheese anywhere?
I didn't know what cheese was.
Es tipo
Our next stop, a hidden gem. On the outside, a not so noteworthy looking shop, but inside, you can't ignore the aroma of baked bread or the food laboratory put together by some kind of culinary mad scientist.
I've been all over the world with my show, many different countries, tons of different restaurants. This is actually the first Michelin-rated restaurant that I've been to ever, and it's right here in Cuba.
Meet Alberto, head chef and owner of SALCHIPIZZA.
Thank you so much for having us today.
He was born and raised in Cuba, but lived in Italy for 16 years, becoming a master of his vocation. Now, he's back, sharing his passion for food creation and innovation in Havana. In 2007, he was the first Cuban chef to be awarded a Michelin star.
When did you first become interested in food?
Mi interés empezó.
His grandma inspired him to food, but his mom wanted him to be an engineer who has more prestige, so he became a food chemist.
Is it because he had to do something to satisfy his parents?
I don't know yet.
Prácticamente sí.
It's about compromising. In the end, it was actually more beneficial because he could understand food in a more technological level. So you mix science and art and you can make something that can go straight to the emotion.
My heart is not here, it's here.
Yeah, but for him, your heart is here.
Yeah, exactly.
The menu today is, well, There is no menu. The chef will take us on a multi-course journey of flavors after sizing us up and playing to our palates. To begin, his pride and joy.
Pan, familia.
Bread is family.
Pan es amigo.
Bread is friendship.
An 87-year-old family recipe for 3 types of whole grain bread served with homemade jam.
This is delicious. Super sweet, like aromatic. Like I taste it in my mouth and I taste it in my nose. We've got a little bit of pork and pink stuff.
It's a mayonnaise made out of beef.
It's nice though. Having the window here, we can just really see the magic happen. The power of the beets just completely transformed the color of this mayonnaise. Let's go for it. Is there more? The beets themselves are very earthy and a little bit sweet.
What is interesting to me is like it has the Cuban flavor. History, tradition, all that is put in on this little thing.
For course 3, lobster tail, minced and set atop a glass of squash puree. Finally, drizzled with an infused oil the chef won't identify until I try to give it a guess.
Voila. I know this is gonna smell good. Oh, truffle.
He understands everything.
It's like this man has a nose. Man, this is really good.
Delicious, super rich truffle. I could go to a bar, get a shot of vodka and a shot of whatever that is.
Now, since he knows my palate, he whips together a pasta and white sauce dish he calls the scent of forest.
I love this style where he kind of reads you what seasonings you like and then gives you more of that.
Next, codfish with a coconut corn tamale. First, he stir-fries the okra with shredded cod and his homemade secret sauce. Then he layers in flavor using a vacuum smoking machine. He plates, he drizzles, he serves.
Have you ever seen a tamale like this?
No, he kind of elevated that traditions of eating okra, mix it with the cod, and man, I never tried also tamale with coconut.
Oh, really? It seems like an obvious addition. That's so good. The cod is usually a very light fish, but he's made it so rich.
Sí, like it.
Yeah.
Running a restaurant, let alone a Michelin-rated restaurant, is a huge undertaking in Cuba. Alberto here is a true success story.
Sir, I gotta say, beyond meeting you, I feel like I know you better just from trying out your menu. You're like a food alchemist and an artist all wrapped into one. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is Fábrica de Arte Cubano, a maze of art galleries, clubs, exhibitions, and eateries, all entangled inside what used to be an oil factory. This is the ultimate community project, pushing against limitations and now symbolizing the Cuba of the future.
What do you think of this one?
Interesting.
He's got a great body.
Like me,
Well, I'm kind of jealous.
similar than mine.
I heard this used to be an oil factory, but now it's art.
Art.
What happened? How'd that work?
That's the answer, art.
Okay. Could you maybe go more in detail?
For more than 30 years it was abandoned, but now they reconstructed it into a cultural project.
I've heard it said that limitations push creativity. Cuba is one of the most creative, inventive, entrepreneurial places I've been. In this eatery, Lizette, the owner of Tapas FAC, is introducing me to a food invented by Cubans in Tampa, Florida, then adopted back into Cuba. The Cubano, made of roasted and smoked pork, Gouda cheese, lettuce, pickles, and spicy mustard in baguette bread.
Oh,
This is good.
excelente.
She said, if you don't say so, she will kill you.
Super cheesy, nice mustard cake, and man, that bread is perfect. Like soft on the inside, nice cushiony bread, toasty on the very outside. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. This is your place, this section of the factory. Are there just a bunch of different sections with different owners?
This is actually a team that works as independent. They are private businesses, all different, but they kind of collaborate and interact as a whole team.
In this trip, we've been all over Cuba, from West Coast to East Coast, in the countryside, meeting many different types of people, many different types of cuisine. This place is one of a kind, definitely in Cuba. What does this place represent for Cuba?
Bueno, creo que es súper importante que exista
She doesn't have a lot to add because this place is speak for itself. She's very grateful that she could create more than a team, more than a group of workers. She thinks this place is a hub of culture, entertainment and love, but also this place is made by Cubans.
In just 7 days, we drove across the entirety of this country and back to its capital. A week is hardly enough time to know a place well, but still I can say what Cuba means to me. Cuba is struggle. Cuba is overcoming. Cuba is success in the face of adversity. Cuba is being grateful for what you have, but Cuba is also fighting for a better future.
What is the future for entrepreneurs in Cuba?
I really don't know, but the only thing I can say is we need to be flexible and try to do something different with everything that you can get here in Cuba.
Where does that come from? That idea of like keep fighting, find a different way, be resourceful.
Cubans are not from here. We have to come here and adapt to the island. Sometimes we don't notice because it's become that survival, like if you stop doing it, you die. So that kind of survival has set the path of what we are right now. For your other question, they may not know what the future of entrepreneur is right now in the country, but for sure, the future of the country is in the entrepreneurs. Because I think more than politics, more than culture, more than everything, they are shaping what can be the future of this country.
Mic drop. Hey guys, before you go, I wanted to read some of your comments. TWA says, great content, stupid channel name. Oh. Augusto Ceilings says, this is dumb, you and your channel are shit. Oh. Patrick Bateman commented, your stupid channel. Oh. There's too much hate in the world right now. The things you say matter. So next time, don't spread insults, don't spread hate. Spread cheese. Do you think I was gonna say love? No, cheese. Spread cheese. You can put it on anything. It's awesome. This is a message so important that we decided to put it on a t-shirt that you can buy now. How was that? I think that could all be cut together. One take? One take. All right, good. Cut.
And be sure to check out our second channel, More Best Ever Food Review Show, for raw clips and deleted scenes that didn't make it into the show.
Boom, boom, boom.
It is the end of the episode. We did it. Oro, thank you so much. Guys, check out Oro on Instagram. That's his main platform of interest. He does all kinds of artistic endeavors. It's quite a treat. That is it for this one, guys. I will see you next time. A peace.
A paz.